Establishing tone and atmosphere is incredibly important when creating a video game. Without it, players will often feel confused on what emotions they're supposed to feel, and the genre you're appealing to will often be misunderstood. Horror games, for example, will need the correct lighting, stories, and eerie feeling to make itself defined as a horror game. However, it is one thing to establish this tone, but another thing to stay consistent with it. Inconsistency will undermine the very feeling you're trying to achieve with your game, and leave players saying, "What the fuck happened?" Take Sword and Shield for example. It starts off hyping the player up for their journey by introducing a champion who has never lost once. Through this alone, the implied challenge is way greater than any previous Pokemon game. Right from the start, players get this sense of challenge, triumph, and determination. Then you start playing the game.
I suppose I should prove beyond a doubt just how pathetic you are and how strong I am.
Dead. Dead. Everything established is thrown into a recycling bin where it can be reused for future Pokemon games to come. All the themes and stakes set up from the start are abandoned when you start to realise how easy the game is. In most cases, not all games have to be difficult, but when you promise a player this dangerous and inspired journey within its introduction, they expect to not have to share their fucking XP. Majora's Mask, on the other hand, is the king of establishing a tone and staying consistent with it throughout all areas of the game. The game starts off by establishing this darker tone through Link being all by himself with Navi nowhere to be around, a direct contrast to Ocarina of Time. As the intro plays out, more and more misfortune plagues our protagonist until eventually we discover the terrible fate of the moon crashing into the newly discovered Termina. Right off the bat, the game throws themes of fear, death, and denial at the audience, suggesting that this game will indeed be a lot darker compared to previous Zelda titles. Okay, never mind. However, this isn't where the bulk of Majora's Mask's dark tone is achieved. The game manages to stick with this gloomy feeling throughout all areas of the game. The biggest example of this is the moon that lingers above all of Termina. No matter where you go, you can't escape the taunting stare of the moon, reminding players that this is their fate unless they reverse time. The music within Clocktown also reflects this, as by the third day the tempo speeds up to match the little time that the residents have left. Alongside this, as the game progresses, Link constantly has to use the power of the masks obtained from several dead spirits. The idea of this really drives home that Link is mainly alone in this adventure. His main way of pushing forward is achieved through using the power of those who have parted ways. The Elegy of Emptiness also really reinforces this through the fact that Link summons these hollow and empty statues to progress through Iconic Canyon. These examples show that whether it be through the game's atmosphere and music, or through the game's mechanics itself, this dark tone is reflected in every area of the game. This is especially important as the game doesn't lose track on making the audience feel something that's not intended, especially confusion or boredom from a random shift in tone. Players will continue to feel the intended despair and gloomy atmosphere throughout all areas of the game. Additionally, staying consistent with its tone is not the only thing Majora's Mask excels in. Alongside this, the game manages to explore its themes in depth, representing its darker tone in many different lights. For example, within Clocktown, the main concern of the townspeople is of the moon killing them. However, despite this, a lot of people are still in denial about the whole issue. It makes the grief feel a lot more realistic. Sure, it'd be scary to see everyone running around in fear that the moon will fall, but the fact that some are so stubborn to face it head on because they reject the idea of it happening is really sad and depressing. Furthermore, the moon isn't always everyone's priority. Within the Goron village, the Gorons have to deal with the issue of the entire place being frozen over. Inside the Deku Palace, a monkey has been falsely accused of kidnapping the Deku Princess and has been sentenced to execution. At the Romani Ranch, you have to deal with aliens attacking them. Hell, even Cremia is oblivious to the moon falling down because she has to protect her milk against these assholes. My point is that everyone has their own individual issues. It makes the characters of this game feel a lot more real and represents a darker tone in depth by not having the moon as everyone's main concern. Themes of grief and hardship are represented in different ways all throughout the game. This not only makes the tone of the game consistent, but varying in different ways to give you a full experience. Furthermore, helping people with their own personal problems makes the resolution of such issues all the more satisfying, which brings me on to my next point. The resolution of this game is made all the more satisfying because of the consistent and in-depth tone that Majora's Mask has set up throughout the entire game. The final hours is probably one of the best moments in any Zelda game for me. Everyone's collected grief, sadness, and anger is represented in this single moment. It's Link's burden to carry as he's the only one who can save Termina. However, despite the gloomy atmosphere, Link still manages to carry on. He enters the moon, faces Majora's Mask, and manages to win. Victory isn't just represented through beating the final boss in the game. Victory at this point is saving everyone in Termina, not just of the moon crashing, but of helping everyone with their own issues. All of the dark atmosphere that the game has set up right from the beginning makes the payoff of saving all of these people all the more satisfying. That is the importance of staying consistent with your tone. Everything that has been set up to carry this dark atmosphere has made the resolution all the more worthwhile through making the players feel like they achieved something when the dark tone has finally been lifted. Majora's Mask may not have the open world of Breath of the Wild, the progression and grand journey of Ocarina of Time, the story of Skyward Sword, the characters of Twilight Princess, or the fun visuals of Wind Waker, but goddamn if it doesn't have have some of the best tone and atmosphere out of any Zelda game I've played. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. The boss is a fucking shit though.